Hey everyone, in this video I want to talk about what is AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So this video is designed to help you learn and deploy with AWS Elastic Beanstalk. And the way we're going to do that is by doing follow along and a little bit of lecture. So that's the goal of this video. As always, if this is useful, like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. I appreciate it, and don't forget to hit that bell icon. Okay, so let's dive into what is AWS Elastic Beanstalk. According to AWS, with the Elastic Beanstalk, you can quickly deploy and manage applications in the cloud without worrying about the infrastructure that runs those applications. So AWS Elastic Beanstalk reduces management complexity without restricting choice or control. All you have to do is upload your application, and AWS Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the details of capacity provisioning for you, which is load balancing, scaling, and application health monitoring as well. So let's get into practice on seeing what Elastic Beanstalk is. But before then, I just want to give you a little overview of what I define as Elastic Beanstalk. I mean, everything I just read out right now is actually true according to the AWS documentation. But then, to make it more simple, the AWS Elastic Beanstalk is what I refer as an app service. So an app service is a service that helps you to deploy your application without worrying about the infrastructure. So all you have to do is worry about the code you wrote, making sure that the code is doing exactly what is expected to do. So our goal in this video is to deploy a NodeJS API to Elastic Beanstalk, and we are going to see how to do that using the AWS CLI. So if you haven't used the AWS CLI before, if you don't have an AWS account, which is required to follow along with this video, go ahead and sign up for an AWS account. You should have free trial that you can always use to play along. Once you have signed up to the AWS console, the next thing we need to do is to install the AWS CLI. And you can do that by visiting the AWS CLI download link. I'll be pasting this link on the video description so you can follow along and download the AWS CLI to your machine. The instructions are pretty straightforward. If you're using a Windows, Mac, or Linux machine, you should see the instructions. You should follow along, and you should be good to go within few minutes. So go ahead and download for whichever operating system you are making use of. So once you have that installed on your machine, you need to check the version to make sure that you have the AWS actually installed on your machine. So I'm going to go ahead and open my terminal, and I can always confirm that I have AWS CLI installed by using the keyword or the command AWS --version. So this should give me the version of AWS that I have on my machine. So this actually confirms that, okay, I have AWS CLI installed on my machine. So once we have confirmed that, let's go ahead and configure AWS console to work with our terminal. So we want to make sure that we can be able to write some commands from the terminal, and it should be able to interact with our AWS console or our AWS account. And to achieve this, we need to create what we call an IAM user, an Identity Access Management user. Once you create an IAM user, this is like creating a user and giving them administrative roles. By administrative roles, I mean privileges, services that they have access to, and services they can actually interact with from the terminal. So I'll go ahead and go to the AWS console, log into the AWS console. On the search bar, search for IAM You should have a similar window when you click on the I am user right here. The I am manage access to AWS resources. You should have the same window that I have right here, and you can go ahead and click on users from the left navigation, and you should be able to create a new user. Give them a programmatic access. So I'll go ahead and click on add users. So we're going to use these credentials for two purposes on this video. One is to interact with our API, which I will also be dropping the link. So if you want to follow along with the video and do every single thing I do right here in the video, then you will need to clone this repository to your local machine and make some changes to it. So one of those changes is changing the secret key and the access key from your AWS, and of course creating an AWS S3 bucket that actually interacts with the API. So this API is a service, or what it actually does is it converts PDF files into audio, and I built this using the AWS Poly. Okay, and S3 bucket. Okay, so right here where you have the IAM details, go ahead and give this guy a detail. I will call this guy V8, and I will give this guy an access key, programmatic access, because I want to be able to interact with this from my AWS API and CLI as well. So next is permission. We need to give this user a permission, and for the purpose of this user, we actually want to give them full administrative access. So we want them to be able to do all the administrative work. So I will go ahead and select administrator access right here, and I will click on next, which should be tags, which is optional. I will skip that, and I'll click on review, and I will go ahead and click on create user. Okay, so once we have this user created, the two keys that we need here is the access key ID and the secret access key. So we need these because we'll be using this in our AWS terminal, in our terminal to configure the AWS CLI, and we'll also be using that on our application. So let's go ahead and configure this on our AWS CLI. So first things, to do this, all you have to do is type the command AWS Configure. This should be in lowercase. So this will ask you to produce or to paste in the access key ID, which I will go ahead and copy right here, and I will paste that. It will ask you to paste the AWS secret access key, which you can click by clicking on show all. Copy this and paste that right into the terminal. So this will ask you for the default region. So if this is your first time configuring this, you should choose the region. I always stick with the US East 1. So I already have it typed in right there. So I can go ahead and type it US East, US-East-1. Or I can just leave that, enter. My default output format, I want to use JSON, so I'll just go ahead and type JSON. And we have our AWS CLI configured to interact with our AWS console. So I'll just go ahead and use this same access key on the program, that's the API that we'll be using. So if you clone this API and set up the environment, you need Node.js pre-installed on your machine. Go ahead and run npm install to install the dependencies. Create an Emv file and populate the info with the file you have in your env.example. So basically, this is what you're expected to do. I'll bring this right here. So you have go ahead and create an .env file and populate it with the AWS access key ID, the access key ID right here should be the access key ID you just created. So you just go ahead and copy this access key ID, paste it right here. Go ahead and copy the AWS secret access key ID and paste it right there. So once you have done that, you should be able to test the application locally. So just to show you a little bit of what the application does, the application takes a PDF text and converts it to an audio. Okay, so let me actually go ahead and start the terminal and let's see this API in action. So I just go ahead and type npm run dev to start the local server. And I'll go back to the documentation where we have right here, and this is actually how you can actually test this API. So I'm just going to use the current command. So this takes a file path. In our case, is a PDF file, and we're calling this endpoint, and we are calling the upload endpoint. We should upload this PDF file to AWS Poly, convert it to audio, and upload it to S3 bucket and return it back to the user. So just go ahead and copy this command just to make sure that our code is running locally. So let's try that again. npm run dev. So our server is starting. So why? Okay, so we have our server running on port 8080. So I can actually run the correct command from here. So I'll just go ahead and copy that one more time. Copy, open my terminal, paste that. I am going to change the local host. So let me copy this real quick. This should be localhost port 8080. And I'll go ahead and change that to localhost port 8080 right here /upload. So I have my file path somewhere in /upload / the name of the file, and I have a file called profile.pdf. So I'll just go ahead and run this. So this is actually the file path. If I open my file explorer, you should see that I have a file right inside this file path. So that should be on Irole, and I have a folder called uploads, and inside upload I have a file called profile, which is a PDF file. So you just have to specify the file path which you want to upload. So I'm running this from a Linux kernel. If you're using Windows, I also give you instructions on how you can specify the file path right here. Okay, with that in place, I'll just go ahead and hit the enter button, and I expect this to return an MP3 link for us, which we can listen to the audio of our PDF. So just have to convert the text to an audio and return it back to us. Okay, so once we have that, I'll just go ahead and copy this link right here, and I'll go ahead and paste that in our browser. And this should be an audio
Contact Nigeria
our
rollherely@gmail.com,
PDF file. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cancel that. So one more changes you need to do to the code base is you have to change, or you have to create an AWS S3 bucket and change the name you have right here. So under the source API, so that should be under API, the router. So this is still loading. So there's a file inside this convert where you have the index.js file. Inside the convert folder, there is a room where I specify the bucket name, the S3 bucket name, where I want to upload this file. So you need to create an AWS S3 bucket, and make sure that you enable the SCL while creating the bucket. So you change the bucket name right here on the code. Whatever you call the buckets, you should specify that right here, so that this API will be able to upload these files to these buckets and return it back to you as well. Okay, so once we have this up and running, we are pretty much sure that our code is running as expected on our local machine. So the next phase is to actually deploy this to the AWS Elastic Beanstalk using the command line. So let's get started. I will go ahead and open this terminal. I'll stop this server right here. And from this terminal, all we need to do is what I call the EB init, which initializes the Elastic Beanstalk in our application. Okay, so give me a second. Okay, back here. So all I need to do is Elastic Beanstalk. So I already have this file configured sometimes, so I just go ahead and remove it. Just to show you exactly how that works. So if I refresh, we should have this file off the hood. So I will do that from my separate terminal. So let me log in. I'll change my directory to the polybook, just to make sure that we don't have the file. So we still have the file. So I'll go ahead and run this command to remove the file. So you don't need to do this. I'm doing this for the sake of this video. I already have this deployed before now, so I just want to make sure that I remove that, and we should be good to go now. Okay, so the first command we need to run is what we call the EB init, so which is initializing the Elastic Beanstalk files. This is going to create a .elastic beanstalk folder with a YAML file inside of it with the configurations for our application to deploy properly. So this will ask me a couple of questions like the name of the application, the environment in which it's running, just pretty much the region where I want to deploy this application. I will stick with US East 1. So this is going to ask me what is the default application name. I just want it to be Polybook. Polybook has been created. It also automatically detects that you're using the you're using NodeJS as a runtime. I have to confirm that by clicking yes. It asks me for the runtime version that I'm using. I'm using the 16 version. Do you want to use code commit? No, I already have Git, so I don't want the code commit. So do you want to set up SSH for the instances? Yes, I want to do that. This will ask me to create a key pair, which I already have one, so I just stick to create, choosing the one I have. But if you don't already have one, go ahead and create a new one using the tree option, which I would say, and I will change the name and call it a test key pair, and I'll hit the enter button. This will generate an RS key pair for me. I don't need a passphrase, so I'll hit enter and I'll confirm that. So this will create this key pair and upload it to the institute where our Elastic Beanstalk will be deployed. So once we have done this, I'll go ahead and clear the screen. The next command we need to run is what we call the eb create, which actually creates the environment for us. So this will go ahead and create the environment name. I want to use the default polybook.dev. This will ask me for the default DNS name preface. I'll just change that to polybook. This is just like the endpoint where you are going to access your Elastic Beanstalk when it's deployed. Select the load balancer type. Like I said, Elastic Beanstalk actually handles everything behind the scene for you. The instances, the load balancing, the security networks, and everything in between. So I'll just go ahead and select the 2, which is application load balancer. And do you want to enable spot fleets? No, we don't want to enable any special spot fleet for our instance. So I'll just go ahead and select no for that. So this is going to create our application, upload that, and create every other thing in between: an S3 bucket, an instance, security network, load balancers. So this is going to take a while for it to deploy. So I will see you in a bit. So once we have successfully deployed our application to Elastic Beanstalk, you should see successfully launched environment, the Polybook application available at Polybook. So this gives you the CNAME, which you can actually use to access your Elastic Beanstalk. So let's actually see this on the cloud. So I will log back into our console, and I will go straight into the search bar and type Elastic Beanstalk. I'll go ahead and open the Elastic Beanstalk. So we should be able to see our application, and we should be able to see the monitoring, the health of our application, how healthy it is as well. And then finally, one more thing we need to do is we need to configure our environment variables in the application. So remember, our code base actually depends on the environment variables right here to communicate with AWS Poly and the S3 bucket. So for now, we just deployed our application to the cloud, but we don't have our environment variables to it. So if we go ahead and open our application right here, you can see it is very healthy, as you can see, and we can test that, but then we're going to get an error message. So I'll just go ahead and copy the URL right here, and let's run this command again to test our application and upload the file. So I just change the endpoint to the CNAME. And I expect to get an error message because we don't have an authorized user that can actually use the AWS Poly to communicate with the API. So we need to do one more thing on the Elastic Beanstalk application, we need to provide it with the environment variables, which is the AWS Access Key ID and the AWS Secret Key Access ID. So I'll just go ahead and copy this AWS Access Key ID. I'll just copy everything right here, but I'm going to remove the equal to once I'm in the portal. So go straight to where you have the applications. Click on the applications. Select your application, which is the Polybook that we just deployed. Click on the environment one more time. Okay, so once you're right here on the left navigation, click on configuration. Okay, just to show you a little bit of what monitoring looks like. You can see that your application is healthy and is okay. If it is failing for whatsoever reason, you will be able to see the causes of the fail, and you should be able to debug your application and know why it is failing from here. On the left navigation where you have configuration, go ahead and click on that so that we can be able to add our environment variables. Okay, so on the software, on the category software, go ahead and click on edit. Scroll all the way down to where you have the environment properties. So this is going to be the name of our key, which is AWS Access Key ID, and the value is going to be what we have right here. So you can just copy what you have on the IAM user right here as well, the one you created, and paste that as the value. So the next will be our access secret key ID. I will copy the secret access key ID and I will paste that right here. So this, make sure the user you created have, if they don't have administrative privileges like full administrator access, they should actually have the poly administrator privilege to be able to interact with the poly API. I mean, this is if you're following along with my application and demo using the code base that I provided. But if you are, bringing in your own code base, if it has environment variables, this is also where you can also add your environment variables. So go ahead and click on apply to apply these changes. And once these changes are saved, we will go ahead and run the endpoint one more time. So this is going to take some time to update the environment variables. So once we have that updated, we will go ahead and test our application one more time. Okay, so once we have our environment variables updated completely, you should be able to see that the head status is okay, and this was last updated sometime. You should also be able to see like the monitoring, the head, the logs of your application right from the navigations right here on the left. Okay, so once we have that all set up, we can go ahead and test that again just to make sure that we have everything in place. Okay, so back to the terminal, I'm going to run this application again, and this time we should be able to successfully convert this PDF to an audio. And here we have the endpoint to the audio. I'll go ahead and copy that, and I'll open my browser and paste that, and we should be able to listen to the audio version of our PDF.
Contact Nigeria at www.linkedin.com/and/Vincent. LinkedIn.
Okay, so that is pretty much how to deploy your application to the AWS Elastic Beanstalk and enable your environment variables and every other thing in between. So if you are using your own code base, you shouldn't face any issue at all if you follow along. Then I understand that the Polybook API may not be as rich. So if you find it something interesting, and you want to contribute to it as well, you can always do that. Make suggestions on, things we can actually add to the endpoint to make it more rich. Okay, guys, so it's comes to the end of this video, and throughout the video we're able to learn how to deploy our application to Elastic Beanstalk using the command line, and we're able to see how we can also add our environment variables to the code to Elastic Beanstalk application. So one more thing before we go is, if you make changes to your code and you want to redeploy, you can always use the command eb deploy. So you already have this Elastic Beanstalk configuration file created right here, so you don't need to recreate that. All you need to do is make changes to your code and run the eb deploy command, and this will redeploy your application to the Elastic Beanstalk. And finally is, once this is all ready and you want to delete the Elastic Beanstalk, after you must have finished practicing, and you just want to make sure that AWS doesn't bill you unnecessarily, you can always go to Elastic Beanstalk, click on the environment right here, delete that. So select this and hit action button and click on terminate environment. This will ask you to enter the name of the environment. In our case, it is polybook-dev. I'll just go ahead and copy that and paste it right here and terminate. So while that is happening, you also need to delete the applications itself. So go ahead and click on the applications, select the application you want to delete, hit action and click on delete application. Type in the application name. In this case, this should be polybook, and click on delete. So while it is deleting, you notice that when you launched your Elastic Beanstalk, it launched an instance and S3 bucket. The S3 bucket is actually protected with some policies which will not be deleted automatically when you delete the Elastic Beanstalk application. So for you to be able to delete the S3 bucket, go to the S3 bucket. You'll see the Elastic Beanstalk naming convention for the S3 bucket that was created for you. Go ahead and select that S3 bucket that was automatically provisioned by Elastic Beanstalk. Click on it, click on permissions right here, delete the policy. You'll see a bucket policy. So this policy actually denies you the access of deleting this Elastic Beanstalk. So for you to be able to delete this Elastic Beanstalk S3 bucket, go ahead and delete the policy right here. Type delete and click on the delete button. Once you have that, you can go back to the object and you should be able to empty this. So go back to bucket, select the bucket, go ahead and empty the bucket right here. This asks you to type in permanent delete just to confirm that you want to permanently empty these buckets. I'll just go ahead and type that and click on empty. Once that is successful, we should be able to go to the buckets and delete it. So go ahead and click on the bucket, check and click on delete. This will ask you to enter the name of the bucket that you want to delete just to confirm that you want to delete that. I'll go ahead and copy the name and I'll paste it on the field and I'll click on delete bucket. So this will successfully delete the bucket for us, and we have been able to destroy the application that we just built. So the same thing with the book bank bucket that we created earlier. So if you want to delete that, first things you need to do is to empty it, and after emptying it, you can now go ahead and delete that. Okay guys, thank you so much. And again, if you find this video useful, please like, subscribe, comment and share. I appreciate it, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for more videos like this. Have a wonderful day everyone. Bye.